Good evening, and welcome to SlushHeap number 8. SlushHeap is the show you want to come to when you want to stay out of the slush pile. If you don't know exactly what that means, stay with us the next hour and we'll show you how. Tonight's show is marketing and brand management. We have quite a number of guests tonight, so it should be very interesting. And I want to start to the left. Our first guest is Jason Matthews. Jason, how you doing? And what we'll do is we'll go through everybody, and then we'll come back to you, and we'll start firing the questions at you. Next to Jason is Jim Alt. He's a friend of the show. We see him every week when he can make it. So far, so good. Then we have Joey Pinkney. Please.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I messed up your name there.
Not a problem at all.
Let me explain something to everybody. English is my second language, so if I screw up tonight, please take it easy on me. Okay, Joey, thanks. Next, we have John Rakestraw, another friend of the show. John has his own shows, and we once in a while frequent his, and he reciprocates by coming here and adding quite a bit of humor to our show. Next to him is John Ward. John has his own show also on Hangout, and I've watched a few of them, although I haven't been invited. Maybe after tonight, we can do something. Nice to have you, John. And then, of course, it's me. I'm the Beast, and you'll meet the Beauty in a minute. Not the next person. The next person is Coleman. And I just heard some really nice tidbits about him we're going to go into a little later. So, John, thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks,
and
Beast.
last, we have the Beauty, and that is Darcy. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name because every time I do, I mess it up. So, did I give you enough time, Darcy?
You did. That was wonderful. Thank you.
There you go.
I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. As always, we're happy to have everyone here, and we have quite a lineup this evening, so I'm very excited about this show. I think it's a very important topic that many authors don't really stop to think about too much until they've already written the book and wondering what to do next. So if you're getting started as a writer, get yourself a head start and start thinking about it now because it'll only help you in the long run. This evening we have 4 wonderful authors with us who have branched, or I'm sorry, actually we have 3 authors and a book reviewer with us this evening, and they have all branched out into various social media channels and have done a lot to promote themselves, and so I think that they have a lot to offer us. And with that being said, I think that we will kick it off. Rudy, did you want to start the questions this evening?
I'll let you start it, and I'll finish it.
Okay, well then I think we should start right over on the left-hand side, right at the beginning with Jason Matthews. Jason, you're a show host as well. You do your own Google Plus show, and would you like to tell people a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm assuming that you can hear me now. My
Yes.
show is called Indie Authors. We've done 57 episodes. We cover topics, and we also interview indie authors like Hugh Howey. But we also do topics like cover design, formatting, similar shows to this one. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to be active with the community and to increase my online platform.
Excellent. Now, because this show is for authors that are just getting started, there might be some confusion. Something that we've mentioned before on previous shows, but just to clarify, can you explain what an indie author is?
Sure. Indie author is often used synonymously with self-published author, but it really goes beyond that. A lot of indie authors used to be traditionally published, and they decided they wanted more control over their project and more money from the royalties, so they decided to take it upon themselves to self-publish. This can be done just by yourself through places like KDP Amazon or CreateSpace for paperbacks, but it can also be done with small presses. So the indie author really encompasses self-publishing, but it actually means more than just that.
It actually means, in a lot of cases, taking on more marketing and brand management, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Most indie authors need to wear a lot of hats because they need to do their own marketing, and in many cases they need to do all of their book creation, from cover design to formatting. It doesn't mean you can't hire out for those things. Of course you can. But a lot of indie authors learn how to do these things for themselves and basically wear many hats.
Now, is that why you got started with the show? Were you doing that for your own books?
I did. I wrote a couple of novels, and I'm not the patient type, so when I ran into obstacles with agents and publishers, I ended up figuring out how to sell books myself and how to get on Amazon and do all those things. And I was actually at a writers' conference several years ago, talking with other writers, asking what they were doing, and when I was telling them all the things I was doing to sell books and how many books I was selling, they started taking notes and saying, wow, this information is more valuable than what I'm getting at the conference. And that's when I realized a how-to book was in order. So I wrote How to Make, Market, and Sell eBooks all for free, and that book just took off. A part of that book was about making websites and blogs, and I realized there was a lot of people interested in that who weren't writers, so I wrote 2 more how-to books basically about making websites and also rising on Google. So I write both fiction and nonfiction. I brand myself more for my subject matter than for my name, but I agree that branding for your name is important as well.
Excellent.
Well, you know, you said you have over 50 shows already under your belt. So I don't know if you would have any statistics as far as the indie authors. You have an approximate percentage of how many do use outside help versus those who are totally 100% doing it themselves?
I believe that I'm in the minority in terms of doing some things for some of my books 100% myself. Cover design especially is very difficult. I do one of my books, by example, I do everything myself and I've never spent a dime on it. And that's actually my best-selling book. But I do hire out for cover design for my other books. But I find reasonable professionals who do very good work. I've learned formatting for both ebooks and paperbacks, which is more difficult. That's something that I recommend most people to hire out for. I create websites and blogs, but for some people that's going to be difficult too. So you have to get aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are, and I recommend hiring out for the things that are your weaknesses. But the more you can learn how to do these things, the more it's going to empower you in all aspects of this business. I would say 90% of people hire out for some element of their project. Very few people do everything themselves.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Now, 1 second. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get my facts straight here. I apologize, but you've written. I was trying to think how many. How many books do you have on Amazon right now?
I sell 5 books as ebooks and paperbacks. I also have a couple of short stories that I give away for free on Amazon with links to my paid books at the end. So technically there's 7 books on Amazon, but only 5 of them actually cost money.
Okay, and the ones that aren't the self-help, what is the genre of the books you write?
Well, I have 2 novels. I have a novel called The Little Universe and a novel called Jim's Life. And those are, it's kind of, it's hard to genreize it. It's sort of spiritual fiction. It's really about finding the bigger picture and life synchronicities without really understanding exactly what it all means. Very
Excellent.
Difficult to explain.
And you actually, I noticed when I went on the other day, you actually have a lot of reviews on Amazon, a lot of positive reviews, which is great. Is that something that you sought out, or were you lucky enough to have people find you and take the time?
Well, I was lucky enough to have people find me and take the time. I don't take any risks with Amazon. I don't want any backlash on oh, well, he set up this review or that review, because that does happen and people get a bad reputation for it. So some of my books don't have very many reviews, you know, anywhere from 7 to 11 or so right now. My how-to book that sells the most has over 160 reviews, and I really like that. It's all organic. It's all people leaving reviews. One really smart thing for getting reviews is at the end of your book to ask people, oh, thanks for sharing, to ask people to write a review, because people forget oh yeah, the author would probably appreciate it if I wrote a review. So I always ask at the end of my books for people to please leave a review. The other thing is if they get to the end of your book, there's a good chance they liked it. So there's a good chance they're going to leave a positive review.
It's a good idea. Excellent. Yeah, because that's one of the things that actually is very important, and it's going to make a smooth transition, as it turns out, because book reviewing is the specialty of one of our other guests here tonight. Joey Pinkney has really made himself quite a name, especially among social media channels, as being one of the best book reviewers around. So, Joey, I went on, and I was actually surprised to find your website was not created for that purpose initially. So I would like to hear why it was that you made the transition.
Well, one of the reasons why I went from what I started out doing with the website to making it centered around authors, author interviews, and book reviews was because I'm obsessed with books. So, I mean, I'm obsessed with reading. So it's something that it was I would say a natural progression. When I first started, I just wanted to do something on the internet. I've been trolling around, looking at different things for a long time, and I ended up saying, let's see, what can I do to be active and actively engage the internet, since I'm always trolling for information on it. And I started writing about like weight loss and acne prevention, and just subjects that just came to mind. I'll just pursue it and probably work on it for like 2 or 3 months, and then I'll go to a different subject. All the while I was doing that, I was working for a newspaper, and they had me write some of the most boring things like obituaries, and had to go sit through town hall meetings and stuff like that. And I was just like, that's for somebody. It's just not for me. But what I like to do is books and authors, and try to find a new book that nobody has heard of. And so what I was trying to pitch to the publisher was allowing me to interview authors and use his newspaper as an outlet. And he didn't really like that, so I started looking on the internet and started finding websites that were geared towards book reviews, and started asking a ton of authors, like I would love to read your book and love to review it. This was probably, this was like 2006, 2007, something like that. And at first, a lot of authors kind of shunned me because they thought I was trying to get a free book and I guess sell it on Amazon for a profit or something like that. So a lot of authors weren't willing to work with me. And I found a couple of websites that would send me books. And then all of a sudden, the snowball effect started happening. I had probably asked maybe like 1,000 authors before I found this website that would, send me books to do book reviews on. And next thing you know, some of the authors started seeing those reviews, and slowly I started getting it started off being like a book a week, but then it turned out to be like 3 books a week. And then it was like a book every day. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was just like they were just coming in, and my family like, wow, you must be really famous and important because you're getting books like every day. And I was just like, no, I'm not famous or important. I don't know what's going on here. So I knew I couldn't read I knew at getting a book a day, I couldn't possibly review everybody's book in enough time. So I figured out something that would be quicker, and what it ended up being was author interviews. It was easier for me to cycle through an author interview in terms of posting it and letting everybody know. And like back then, it was like MySpace was the big thing, so I was doing events on MySpace and posting to the groups and stuff like that. And eventually, I was like, since I'm doing this, since I'm writing about weight loss and acne prevention, why don't I do author interviews and book reviews and stuff like that? So I slowly kind of went in that direction with it, and it's grown. That website is its own person now. It has its own thing going on.
It's fabulous. And why do you think? I think probably one of the questions that new authors would have is why book reviews are so important. Can you tell a little bit why you think that's important?
I think one of the main reasons is if you find somebody that's respectable, if you find somebody that's your friend that you actually honor their opinion on things, their book review can sell that book to you and possibly your friends. So a book review is a marketing tool, just like an ad is. It can be that one thing that could cause a book club to latch onto your book and buy multiple copies as opposed to one at a time. So I think that's the most important thing. I think is for me, the way I look at book reviews, not only do you get an honest appraisal of the book, but a lot of times it kind of shapes your choices in terms of what are you going to buy next or what author you might give a chance. And so I think that's one of the more important things book review can do for an author.
Excellent.
But you know, I noticed that looking at your repertoire, boy, I'm full of big words tonight, and I did my homework. You not only just review books, but you actually create a video advertisement, don't you?
Oh yeah. I noticed a lot of people were doing book trailers, and I wanted to kind of add it. I wanted to add a visual, audio visual aspect to the author interview, and also add that to what I do in terms of social media marketing for the different authors that I do interviews for. And so instead of doing a book trailer, I switched it up and I do author interview trailers. So basically what I do is I take quotes from the author interview and incorporate that into a trailer. So it ends up being like a totally different. It's similar to a book trailer, but it's real organic in that each one is unique to the words that the author provided during their book, during their interview. So some of them are real elaborate and have a lot of words, and other ones are very succinct and I don't want to say simple in terms of simple-minded, but simple in terms of not being complex.
So today, just to get off the subject for a minute, I called my doctor, and he tells me that he can't see me till September. Now, how soon can you see me with my book?
Oh, I can see you probably about September. September sounds good to me too. maybe all three of us can do lunch. No, really. In terms of seeing your book, I've kind of slowed down on my book reviews as of late because I've kind of gotten inundated, and it's a couple things that I want to get out the way before I actually really dig down into books. When I do a book review, I read it from the front cover, the acknowledgments, the prologue, all the way to the end to the discussion questions if they're in the back of the book, and so I've kind of slowed down so I can make sure I give each book its proper attention. Like I was saying earlier, the author interviews actually kind of cycle through a lot quicker. It takes me about, from the time I get it, if I have a lot of author interviews in my queue, normally it takes me about 3 days to actually post it from the time I get it. But a book review probably would take me about, from the time I get it to the time I actually finish it, probably about, I would say about 3 weeks, because it takes a while to read it and to write something introspective about it and make sure it's useful to the reader. I don't want to just write marketing material for an author. I want to dig down and let the reader know exactly what's going on in the book without giving too much of it away. That takes a little bit of time. So I would say probably from beginning to end, probably about 3 weeks.
Excellent.
With everything else I have going on.
Excellent. Now, one of the things that I think is interesting is that you've taken such an interest in reviewing, and in the same sense, John Ward, who's the next guest in line here, has taken such an interest in writing and promoting authors, and neither one of you has published a book. Do you think that your experience with all this will push you in that direction next?
I've been working on a book for probably about 3 or 4 years. I actually do have a couple of short stories that have been published. I was in the Soul of a Man anthology, which won the African American Literary Award show for Best Short Story, Best Anthology the same year it came out, so that was pretty cool. I also work with Phaedra Dion. She does a couple of websites. One in particular is the Independent Author Index, and she has the Independent Author Index short story compilation that she puts out. She's on volume, I think she just released volume 3 or 4. I know I'm in the first 2, and I plan on being in 4 or 5 and on up. And so I have a couple of short stories out there. Now, in terms of writing a full-length novel, there's a couple of things. One is, self-doubt, and I would say lack of attention span. Reading short stories has really spoiled me in terms of being able to sit down and write 80,000 words. That's a mountain for me to climb. So I'm doing it bit by bit. I'm chipping away at my little mountain here and there, and I have a couple of writing projects. One of my writing projects is a serial fiction piece. It's called Unholy Days, and it's kind of like a soap opera in that it's an ongoing story, and it changes up as time goes by. And I'm really having a lot of fun in the beginning stages. It's kind of slow getting off the ground, but once I really get a feel of the characters, I think the story will start moving a lot quicker. And I'm going to be releasing it chapter by chapter.
Excellent. Now, John Ward, same question to you. Do you think that, well, I know that you're actually in the process of working on a book. Do you think that your experiences in talking to other writers has helped you along on that path?
Oh, it definitely has, because you get a benefit from all the experiences and connections that all those other writers have. When I first joined Google+, I couldn't have named a single editor, but now that I've been on there for almost 2 years, I know dozens of editors. Same with cover designers and all the things that self-publishers will have to handle or farm out to other people. And all that comes from just working with other authors and talking to them about what they've done, who they've worked with, and what their goals were, and what kind of results they received. So it's been very helpful.
Excellent. Now, what do you think you've learned most about marketing in your efforts? Because you're, on your 57th show, you said? Is that right?
No, that's
Yeah,
Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Jason. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, Jason, sorry.
My apologies. No, but you also do a show, and you're interviewing authors as well, correct?
I do 2 shows. Google Plus has the feature that's about 6 months old now called Communities. It's basically the same thing as Facebook groups. And I have one community for writers, and I have another community for people who enjoy urban fantasy, the urban fantasy genre. And I do a hangout show for each of those communities. All of them together, I think I've done 14 hangouts, 14 shows. So Jason's definitely beat me.
No, I think that's all right. But in your process of doing that, has there been anything as far as marketing or brand management that you've come across that's been sort of a saving grace for your own efforts?
Well, you find a lot of authors who it doesn't seem like there's a holy grail answer for everyone, because each individual author brings their own unique strengths to the table whenever they go to make their book. Some people are fantastic at networking. Some people are really good at different things. And as I talk to different authors, you find that some people have success by doing one thing, other people have success by doing another thing. So you kind of have to know who you are and be honest about what your strengths are and that sort of thing. And if you are self-publishing, one of the great things about it is the simple fact that you have full control. You can try whatever you want to try, and then you can make sure you keep good records about what you did, when you started it, and what your results were, and then evaluate those efforts every 3 months or so. That way you'll be able to keep track, and you'll know, okay, well, if I paid for a promotion on this website and got this many sales, I paid for a promotion on this other website and didn't receive any sales. So you'll be able to make informed decisions about what's working for you and what's not.
Excellent. That's excellent advice. Rudy, do you have any questions?
No, the only thing, and I don't mean to get off the subject, John, you're having a problem with one of your lighting systems?
Oh,
we can hardly see you.
Okay.
Because there we go.
Perfect.
That's better. Oh, no, it came right back.
See, the sun is setting behind me.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because we'd rather look at you than the sun. Let's put it that way. There we go.
Perfect.
Excellent. Now, you brought something up, and that was the fact. So you believe, just like I do, that even though you write your own book, you still give it to an editor other than yourself, even if you were an editor. Let's put it that way. Because I know in the case of John Rakestraw next to you, his wife wrote a book, and the one thing she said on our show was she gives it to another editor to look over and to get an honest opinion that way. So you feel strongly in that also.
I personally do.
Okay.
I know a lot of authors, they want to do it themselves, or they don't want to pay someone to do it. And even if you don't pay somebody to do it, find somebody who understands story structure, who understands grammar and punctuation, and have that, whatever you have to do, barter, trade, whatever, but get someone else to be involved with your story. because there's going to be things that you are assuming that you're actually communicating that you're not. There's going to be errors that you're not going to see just because you've spent 30 hours looking at this chapter.
Right.
And there'll be things that you miss that fresh eyes will see, and they'll see very easily because it's brand new to them. And if you just click that publish button and release that book in the wild, then your readers are going to see that. And they're going to come back and let everybody else know about what they found.
Correct. That's a good one.
I think that one of the recurring topics that keeps coming up with each one of you is the idea of doing things affordably, and I think that that's one of the things that intimidates new authors so much, especially when it comes to marketing and branding themselves. They get overwhelmed, but there's so many avenues for affordable marketing today, and I noticed that you've really paid a lot of close attention to Google Plus yourself. Can you explain to us why it is that you prefer that avenue?
I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus. Twitter, I make an effort there. I try to understand it, but it just seems like shouting into a vacuum to me, because I'll make a tweet and not a single response and stuff. And I admit, I wasn't an early adopter. I've been on it, not for very long, and even when I was on it, I didn't pay much attention to it. Facebook, if I'm related to you, then I'm probably friends with you, and you can see pictures of my little girls in there. If I'm not related to you, then you'll see comic strips or funny things that I find and stuff. But if you're on Google Plus, that's where I put all my, the writing stuff. And the reason for that is I was invited into Google Plus towards the tail end of the beta. And when I joined Google Plus, I didn't know a single person. And so I wanted to learn the platform, so I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what can I talk about? And personally, I was reading all these blogs and stuff that had to do with writing, so one day I wrote a post about something that I'd read. And people commented, and I began to realize, hey, there's a lot of writers here. And the thing that made Google Plus click for me was when I realized that, unlike Facebook, where I had to know somebody's name to go search for them and send them a friend request, with Google Plus I could type in writer or science fiction or whatever I was looking for. And if somebody had those words in the About section of their profile, it would turn up in the results. So then I would start following these people and then commenting on their posts and stuff, and then they would follow me back. And I built up a following of writers and connected with a lot of people that way. And I still really enjoy the platform, and that's why I focus on it.
And it's funny too, is that I think that it really depends on what you're comfortable with. Like you talk about how Twitter, you're not comfortable with that, and yet we flip over to Slash, who's the next guest in line here. And Slash, I would say that you prefer Twitter to Google Plus. I mean, you haven't posted a whole lot to Google Plus. Why is it that you prefer Twitter?
For me, in terms of for most of the people that I want to contact way up in the writing food chain, I have to go through an agent, and I'm not assured that they'll ever even respond to me.
So most of that you missed, right, Darcy, because they kicked you out.
I did, and I'm hoping that we didn't just lose the first portion of our video. I apologize. Okay, excellent. I missed that, Slash, so I'm going to let Rudy follow up.
Okay.
Well, I have to follow up the fact that you are not a first-time writer, because I understand you have a 7-volume set of books coming out.
It's called Don Quixote.
Okay, I was just going to ask.
I'm just joking. No, I don't have 7
Very
volumes.
good.
No, no. I have my first book coming out next month.
The Bohemian Love Diaries, which is your book, correct?
Yeah, it's like right down. The Bohemian Love Diaries, correct? Yeah.
Perfect. Now it is available on Amazon right now, or is it pre-order only?
It's pre-order right now. The official hardback comes out July 16th, and then it'll be out on ebook and then Audible. I went in and recorded it on Audible and stuff like that. So
excellent.
Everything will be out in the next couple months.
Fantastic. And I think what Rudy's talking about is our pre-show conversation.
No. He opened the box and I just followed it.
Regarding your marketing scheme for your book.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm a real practical joker, so.
Yeah, no.
Well, you came to the right place.
Good.
We take it serious.
Good.
So your book tour kicks off, and I think that that's probably a point of interest for this show, given that it's about marketing and brand management. You're kicking that off on the 16th, is that what you said?
Yeah, it launches in New York, which is where I live now, on the 16th. And instead of doing typical book tour, book signings, where me as a nobody author goes into a bookstore and nobody comes, I'm setting up panels all around the country. And so they're based around the themes of the book. And so one of the themes of the book is I was raised by 8 artists, including my grandfather was a dancer at the Moulin Rouge. But so at some of the panels that I'm doing, I'm setting up father, son, mother, son, father, daughter, mother, daughter panels to talk about, what it's like to grow up with a father or son that artist and the challenges you have in the family. And so with that, when I go in to a town where I don't know anybody and I set up a panel of all locals, I kind of piggyback off the coattails of their platform, and so they kind of bring the audience to me that way, and I kind of host that panel.
Now, is this an idea that you came up with on your own, or are you working with someone that's helping you formulate this? Or
well, my publisher is really behind me 100%. I'm a real guerrilla type of marketing type of person, and so I'm setting all this up. My publisher is helping me. Once I go into the town, they're helping me hook up with the local bookstores to do signings there. But what I'm doing on my tours, there'll be one main panel around a specific theme. When I go up to Maine, because one of the things in my book too, I was raised in the South, is hunting and fishing with my family is really big too. So the panel in Maine will be, around hunting and fishing, which is a totally different topic than my mom's a Holocaust survivor. When I do something at one of the JCCs, that's going to be a totally different panel. But I'm setting that up. The publisher is piggybacking off that to help me set up signings in the traditional signings in the bookstore. And then, all that's free. No one pays for someone to come in and pay books or even pays to really listen to a panel. And so the way I'm paying my way through the tour is we're launching the one-person show, the solo version of the Bohemian Love Diaries.
Excellent. And I have to bring it up again only because I find it very interesting that one of the ways that you've been promoting your book on Google Plus was to put this video out about you trying to meet up with your love interest. And I think that these kind of little gimmicks are funny, obviously, but also hugely popular with people. They want to see those little bits of humor out there. Is that something that you really intend to do, or is this something that you're doing through, to pull interest in?
Well, initially it was something that I just wanted to do, and then it kind of crossed over of what if I make it a promotion and make it a $1,000 contest, send them the best video of you making up with your ex in a video. It can be like reading a letter, or you can take the cameras to, your ex and show up at the doorstep, and I don't know what's going to happen, or you can get you and your improv friends to reenact what that might look like. And so it was really open in terms of what kind of videos I wanted people to submit. And then on the book tour, once we got enough of those, we're going to show a lot of those on the book tour as well.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So I think I have to say that probably you're one of the better ones at using social media to get your word out there and to spread the popularity of what you do, because you're not just an author. I mean, this is actually an extension of what you've been doing. Do you want to tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, my work has always been memoir-based, personal stories, and so I've been making my living the last 3 years as a professional storyteller, pretty much telling stories on the National Storytelling Festival circuit, just personal, true stories. And before that, I did one particular story for 6 years. I made my living doing it, called The Neon Man and Me. that show ran off Broadway and it became a PBS special, and it opened the door where I became a producer at PBS, and now pretty much whatever I pitched in, they say yes to. And so now we're working on the next PBS special, which is about this rebirth of storytelling in the United States, where, you know, people are hungry to hear but also tell like personal, true stories and kind of share that connection between, you know, it kind of goes back to this slower version of life where people want to read books, people want to just sit and talk and listen and hear stories.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm going to open it up now to see if anyone else wants to ask any questions of Slash or of anyone here, really. Jim, you're up.
Yeah, I have a question, because to me marketing is one word, and that is measurement. When you do something, what you try to do is say, this is the result I get from it because I've gotten the response I can attach to the one event. I know in social media it's real tough because you do so many things, you get a response. Is there a way you figured out for an author who's trying to get started, what can they do to put something out there and know that they can measure they're on the right track?
Well, I think John Ward touched on this, so if he wants to, I'll throw that back to him.
Okay. One of the mistakes I see authors make, I believe it's a mistake. Take it for what you want, but is that they get focused so myopically on making that next sale. And so you'll see these people on Twitter or wherever, and their post is, buy my book, or my book is free this weekend. People get tired of those type of posts very quickly if that's the only thing you're posting. So I think that one of the key ways to use social media is just to be a real person. Now, as to your question about, you know, how do you measure that? The reason I'm bringing up being a real person and making a real connection with the people that you're following or that you're friends with is something beyond just, you know, retweeting or whatever. You know, forming connections with people. And the reason for that is whenever it comes time to make that sale, then you can reach out to those people and ask them to help you promote it or what have you. As far as evaluating how that works, it's all in the documentation. You know, make a spreadsheet. Say, on this day, I spoke to this person, they told their followers about it, or I did this to promote my book, or I did this type of sales promotion. I entered into KDP Select, or I lowered the price, whatever you're going to do to promote your book, and then keep records. It's not complicated, but it is tedious. You have to keep good records because that's going to help you evaluate whether it was a success or failure.
Excellent. Now, Jason, you had something that you wanted to add to that as well?
Yeah, Jim asks a good question, and I'm sorry if there's background noise. I'm in a hotel lobby at a writers' conference. When you're trying to get a grasp on what is working for me as far as marketing, you know, because I'm blogging, I'm using Google, I'm using Twitter, I'm using Facebook, I'm using LinkedIn, we're doing all these things. And so what Jim asks is important. You have to decide what's working and what's not working. And my experience shows that people respond to the things that are working. So if you make a blog post and it's not getting any comments, or if you say something on Twitter and nobody's retweeting it, or, you know, the same thing on Google+, no one's +1ing it or leaving comments, then whatever you're doing there probably isn't working as well as if it were getting comments. And so my focus has really shifted from the things that John touched on as saying, you know, buy my book, it's available now for free, download my book, to engaging the audience, engaging other people. Make it about them, not so much about you. Try and get people to make comments on your blog post, to make comments on your Google Plus or Facebook post, to retweet what you're doing on Twitter, and figure out how to engage other people. It makes everything so much easier, and then the conversation happens, and who knows where it's going to lead.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that that's one of the things that actually a lot of people struggle with, including myself in many instances, with, trying to get out there and get the feedback. How is it that how do you judge what you should post in order to get that kind of feedback?
Is that for everybody?
I'm not sure. Is that a general question? Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
absolutely.
Go ahead. Somebody else. I've been hogging.
Yeah, I think Slash has a good take on that. He's been doing it for years in real life.
That's right.
Well, I blog for Psychology Today, and I would like to say that there's a template for, my blog posts that are super successful, the ones that are like getting like 30,000 hits during the course of a week. But I don't think there's any real like key secret to like going viral with anything. But it's like you said over here, it's like it's really just being really authentic and finding a way to engage a community in a conversation. And I find on Twitter, I go through kind of waves with that where it's me just being real and engaging my community to being like, oh no, I need to promote now. And like I find like when I'm real and I'm engaging a community in a conversation, that's when I find people will draw into me more.
Excellent. Now, would you agree, Joey? Because I would argue that you've been equally as successful at building a community in the social network genre, so to speak. Do you agree with what he said?
Yeah, I found it to be true that sometimes when you're trying to sell, when you're trying your hardest to sell, you end up not getting getting the feedback and getting the sales that you want, as opposed to when you're engaging your customers and potential customers, potential readers, and you're actually kind of like what John was saying, just being a person and kind of letting people into your personal life, your personal sense of humor within reason, some of your random thoughts, because sometimes not just readers, but a person can connect to you on that level and may want to take a chance with you on a different level in terms of the things that you've written, based on the fact that as a person they feel like they can make a connection with you one-on-one.
Excellent. Rudy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, the thing we haven't touched on yet is the brand management, and the only thing I can say as an observation from my point, when I first came to Google Plus, before we ever even had this show, that's the first word I learned, it seems like, because at the time it was Craig Shipp, I believe, that said to me, you have to create a brand for yourself. And I'm looking at him like, what in the world are you talking about? And now that we're a little bit into this, I can understand it more. And like, I thought that when I created the brand of SlushHeap, I went by all the do's and don'ts. I guess what I have to ask each one of them, explain to me your brand versus anybody else's, if that's possible.
Well, Slash, why don't we start with you, since I have your website up here that I was wanting to show. I mean, is there anything you've done to make yourself stand out amongst the rest, and make Slash hold my name that everyone knows?
Well, I think it comes down to part of my mission, which is personal, true stories. And, it has personal and positive true stories, but it has to always center around that. I'm also a columnist. I'm like a dating website columnist, and like I do all these things, and I think about, for the 6 years I did that one show that became the PBS special. It was that story was about a friend of mine that died, and I donated all the money to nonprofits all around the country. And if I was thinking, I think about brand meaning, on Twitter it's a hashtag. The hashtag for me during that time was bereavement, and then I moved into like a different realm where I lost a lot of my fan base because I began to switch what I was doing, not only with my writing but also my memoir work. It was no longer bereavement work; it was work around hashtag artist and hashtag bohemian. And so but I think there's a core in there that stay with us when we want to move in a different direction as an artist. So I don't think I think it's a challenge even for me, who's been making my living as full time as an artist for the last 12 years, to pinpoint how to stay excited in what I create, and also maintain a specific brand, because it's not as easy as like saying I'm coming out with a pack of Fritos and the Fritos logo and the taste isn't going to change for the next 20 years.
Okay.
Right.
Very true. Would anyone else like to follow up on that?
Sure. I think that as far as social media is concerned, with your brand management, you should just pick a few topics and you post about those on a regular basis. The topics should be things that interest you, something you're not faking it. And ideally, you'd like to have them be related to the topic of your book. Like Slash was talking about, he used the hashtag bereavement for a long time because it tied in with his show. And because the thing is, you're going to build a following of people who share that interest with you. And that'll, repetition, posting about the same material over and over again will establish your brand. One thing that, going back to what Jason said, a book that really changed my life, I read it right as I was joining Google+, is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And in that book, the book is about networking, and he tells a bunch of personal stories from his own life about how networking has made his life better. But the big message that I took away from that book is he approaches networking and everything that he does whenever he's connecting with another individual with a spirit of generosity. And man, if you can adopt that throughout your life, it really will change everything about how you approach things, especially social media. Because if you are participating in Google Plus or Facebook or Twitter, whatever, to give something back to the people that are connected to you, then you're going to build a following. Whereas if it's all about you and what those people can do for you, then people are going to lose interest. But
excellent. Joey, you've done this very successfully. You started your website in 2006. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and you've since become a very big name for a lot of authors, as far as who to go to for reviews. How have you done that in such a short period of time?
I think one of the things is being consistent and kind of focusing on two things: author interviews and book reviews. I've really done that a lot over the years. I've called my what I do in terms of author interviews the JoeyPinkney.com 5 minutes, 5 questions with author interview series, and by giving it a name, it kind of solidifies it as an entity in which authors can come through and be seen by not only other readers but also other authors and publishers, for networking capabilities. And I think by actually branding everything that I do in terms of, if I post my interviews on a different website, I always put my JoeyPinkney.com in the title somewhere. In terms of letting other people know about my author interview series, a lot of times what I do is I put in there the JoeyPinkney.com 5 minutes, 5 questions with author interview series, and slowly over time people started talking about it, and they will be able to refer to it as the 5 minutes, 5 questions with, or sometimes they mix it up and say 5 questions, 5 minutes with, but they get the concept and they understand that that's something that Joey Pinkney does for authors. And by doing that, it's kind of that's how it's grown into its own entity, so to speak. It's kind of crazy. Like sometimes I have people that hit me up on Facebook or hit me up on Twitter, and they're like, "Man, I've been following you since you was Joey Reviews on MySpace," and I'm thinking like, man, MySpace was like back in 2008, and in the book industry, and in terms of people to do, in terms of what I've seen people do with author interviews and book reviews and book blogger websites, sometimes there's a high churn rate with that. A lot of times people hop in and they find out how tedious it is or how hard it is to kind of round up some authors, or how to keep them on deadlines and stuff like that. That after a year or two, you don't get a response and you tend to fall off. And kind of like what we were talking about earlier, when we post things and they don't get comments, and some things get tons of comments, other things don't. One of the things that I've had to go through in doing my author interview series is like feeling like I was in outer space doing it with nobody around me. Nobody was looking at what I was doing. Nobody was paying attention, except for a couple of authors. And even in those hard times, every time when I wanted to say, you know what, I'm going to quit. I'm about to pack this up. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to start a new project, whatever that may be. I always tend to get an email from somebody saying, man, I've been reading your website. Sometimes I go to your website like 2 or 3 times a week. I really love what you do. Sometimes authors say, thank you so much for featuring me. First time anybody even paid attention to me in terms of wanting to review my book or do an author interview on me. And that right there just gives me the energy to start anew and just keep plugging away at it. And I think by using, by branding, by using my name and kind of like what John was talking about, being real generous and helping out people. And sometimes I've gone so far with some authors as figuring out a way to VPN into their computer just so I can help them like edit something or get a program to work. I had actually uploaded Dragon Speaking Naturally for one author, and by spending it took like 3 days to get it on his computer. But after that, that's one of my diehard fans. Like, he's one of my supporters. He would leave comments. If I post something, he'll retweet it faithfully, and it's building those connections that sometimes is greater than the money you can get from putting services out there or even selling books.
Excellent. Now, Jason, would you like to take a shot at this too? I mean, you've been rather successful at selling yourself. Do you feel like it's because you've built a brand, or is it simply because you've dedicated yourself to each individual project?
No, I think it's exactly because I've built a brand, and I occasionally hear from readers all over the world, from countries like Nigeria, Serbia, Nepal. I'll get an email from someone who says my book really helped them out, and that's more rewarding than anything. For me, branding is very important to stay consistent with keywords that are related to my subjects. For example, I sell ebooks and I work with indie authors. So those are 2 keyword phrases that are really important to me: sell ebooks and indie authors. And I try and use those keywords in a lot of the things that I do. My name, Jason Matthews, is maybe a little more common than some people's names, so I don't worry so much about trying to brand my name. I think in time that's going to work out on itself. But for fiction writers, we have this conversation a lot. They're asking me, what do I do? Do I brand my novel, the topics within my novel, or do I brand myself? For fiction writers, I think it's more important to brand yourself as much as possible, along with maybe the genre that you're working in or something within your book that can be unique, that people can find you. It's important to reach people who are strangers, who are going to Google or use Amazon search engine to end up finding your subject matter. You can't rely on referrals alone. That's terrific, but in my opinion, branding is all about meeting up with perfect strangers who use search terms to find you, and it is very important to me. Oh, thanks for sharing.
And this is the book, how to make, market, and sell ebooks. Right now, it's selling for what, 79 cents on Amazon, and definitely worthwhile. I'm sorry, $10.29. I'm sorry.
It's okay. The Kindle version is $7.99. And I teach self-publishing methods, and I give examples of doing everything for free if possible. But I also give tips on if you need to hire out, how to hire out affordably.
Excellent. And I think, guys, we're actually 4 minutes from the end of the show, so we probably should draw it to a close, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions on this topic, especially from new authors who are really trying to get out there, because I know even myself and my clients and what they ask of me, I don't always have the answers, and I think that you have to turn to the people who have been here longer than I have and have been around and had to find those answers themselves. It's important to turn to people like you. So if you would, please, send us a link or something of where you would like people to contact you, and we'll make sure to spread the word and let our viewers know. Rudy, anything you want to say?
Well, I think with Joey, we don't have any contact information for him, so I think he's trying to stay incognito.
No, that's the last thing I'm trying to do. It's just the money. Just couldn't get it to work this time around. Hopefully I get to be on the show again. I'll have a nice little bar
We try.
down at the bottom.
Let me explain the format that we use. We do 13 shows, just like they do in television. After 13 weeks, we take all of our money and we go on vacation for 13 weeks.
Sounds good.
And what we hope to do in those 13 weeks is make up some short ones. And I like the idea with you said, what was it, 5 questions that you use? Yeah. So that kind of a thing where we go one-on-one with people that we've had here before, and we do mutual, we actually get together and it's not a reality show anymore because the questions are all rigged, so therefore the answers are rigged. But we can show them during the 13 weeks by releasing one at a time. That's what our goal is. You know, we will get the next time into teaching a little more. Right now we wanted to introduce all we could, and I think we've done the best we could at this point. I mean, look at the panel tonight. You know, we started out the first week with one individual, and today we got a full panel. That's saying something. And we will not be stopping this. We will continue on. Now, the only thing, and I said to you earlier, I have to apologize, and I don't mean to do this, but it's something that weighs very heavy on my heart. I was not as prepared as I should have been tonight because, unfortunately, I still have a daytime commitment that I have to once in a while fulfill. And I did today. It's something, like I said, I thought I divorced myself from 20 years ago. And as we haven't mentioned yet tonight, I, too, have written a book. And what's really nice, when I heard Slash say tonight that he's a storyteller, I say that every show. I am not an author. I'm a teller of stories. And my book is the true story of my life. It had to be written in 2 books because I had 2 different lives. And in reality, I really did have 2 different lives. And my first one was I was a Gary Powers, if you remember who he was, in the U2. And my second life was James Bond. And just this past week, as you know, one of our fine employees of the Alphabet Soup Company came out with some really nasty things that he wanted to give to the public. And then the coward took off, and of course he went to Hong Kong. And see, Hong Kong and China was my territory for 13 years when I was with the Alphabet Soup Company. So I had to do a little bit of research today to see if we can find him because he took off from the hotel. And see, hotels and me for 13 years, I know where I would go. So that's why they came with the question, and I had to do a little research today instead of looking at your profiles and knowing a little more about you, and I apologize for that. That's normally not me. Hopefully I'll never have to do that again. You know, I don't get paid enough for it, let's put it that way. So with that, you know, I want to thank you, gentlemen and lady, for being with us tonight. Jason, definitely at some point we would love to have you on again if you would be so kind.
Be more than happy.
A little more in depth. Great. Jim, it was nice seeing you again tonight, and I know we'll see you during the week or through the window, whichever one. Joey, it was nice meeting you, and let me tell you something you're going to hear from me because I looked at some of your videos, and boy, you're right down my alley. You know.
All right. Yeah.
I like a video that has something to say, and you say a lot. You really say a lot there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
John, it was nice meeting you. I know we didn't meet up the first time, probably because it was my first show and I was nervous and didn't do things right, and I apologize for that. But it was nice having you on tonight and getting to meet you, and hopefully we'll see you again. Maybe, like I said, you'll find a slot for us on your show. We'd love to come to your show. Slash, I already like you because you tell the story of your life, and that takes sometimes some doing. Not everybody wants to tell the story of their life. Some people do it for the financial reward, and you know what? From what I heard tonight from you, you're not that kind of person. You give more back to the community than the community gives to you, or 50-50, whichever. And I like that.
I left my debit card number over here, so.
Okay. There you go. So, and I want to thank you, and definitely we'd like to have you on again.
Sure.
I'll look at a few more of your videos that you make, you know, and I need to know how this. I'm going to look up this. When is the deadline for this video that you accept on how to make up with your loved one?
August 1st.
August 1st. Let's see. Right now we're in June. I can divorce my wife within the next week, and then I can make up with her. Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I can get a video done too. It's $1,000, right?
We have time to date, Rudy. Between now and then we can get together and then break up.
Okay, there you go. That's it.
So you'll be awarded the $1,000 post-mortem. I can see that.
Okay. So,
thank you.
Darcy, any last words?
I would just like to really take the time to say thank you. I think that this was a very strong show on a topic that really matters, and I really can't push that enough as a freelance writer. It's one of the things that I say over and over and over again to clients. It's not enough to have the dream, to write the story. You've really, really got to push it once you have it out there, because you can write the best thing in the world and no one will know about it unless you take the time to market. So thank you all very, very much for being here today to talk about it. I appreciate it.
Say good night, Darcy.
Good night, Darcy.